Welcome to Soul Therapy with Chelle. I am Chelle Griffin and I practice as a soul doula. I combine therapeutic knowledge and lived experience with a healthy dose of spiritual exploration. Feel welcome to join me as we learn and grow together, exploring the magic and wonderment of experiencing life on earth as a spiritual being. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Soul Therapy with Chelle. And today we have a delightful guest, Kate Engler, and she's here to chat about her experience with Gestalt Therapy. As you all know, I practice as a Gestalt psychotherapist and I specialise in trauma and grief, primarily working with women. So it's really fitting that we have Kate here to share her experience of attending and participating in Gestalt therapy and how that has impacted her life and how she's able to live a life she loves. And so we're going to explore her journey and dive a little deeper. Welcome, Kate.
Thanks, Shell. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here and to, share my experience with Gestalt and how it's impacted my life.
So thrilled to have you here. And would you like to share a little bit about who you are today and how you spend your business hours, I guess, how you are in the world today?
Yeah, thank you.
What do you do? What do you do
Yeah,
with your time?
I guess the thing of which I'm most proud of is raising my two delicious boys. So who I am in the world is first and foremost a very proud mother. They are now 19 and 21 and delicious, in touch, funny, clever little creatures. So I guess that's the thing upon which I most proudly hang my hat. I don't think across my life I have done as much work on any aspect of my life as I have on my parenting. And I think Jackie Kennedy once said, and I'll butcher the quote, forgive me, Jackie. Jackie Kennedy, Onassis, once said that the greatest thing a person can do is to raise, it's about raising people that are going to then go on and leave a legacy.
Yeah.
Obviously, her family was hit with tragic
Mm.
legacies more so than any other sort of legacy, sadly. But that really resonated with me because I think if one can look back upon their life and see that their children, if they've chosen to have them, and I respect people's choice not to, but if you've chosen to have children, I think if you can look back on your life and think, you know, they're pretty great creatures in the world. I think that's a happy place to be. So that's a big part of my life. In my day to day, what do I do? What's my day job? In terms of what you said, how do I keep myself busy with my days? I'm the founder of the Meet the Press Masterclass. My business is called the Publicity Princess, and so often exciting and exhilarating entrepreneurs that have courageously taken their credit card in one hand and their ghoulies in the other, and they've leapt forward to create what they now call their own business. I mean, life doesn't get much sexier than that. It's just so inspiring. These gorgeous folk are often excluded from the media industry, excluded from publicity, excluded from earned media or free media because they can't afford high agency fees, the monthly retainer of thousands and thousands of dollars. So our Meet the Press Masterclass is designed so that business owners no longer need me or any other PR person again. We run it twice a year, once in Melbourne, once in Sydney, and it's the classic teach a person to fish, right? So that they get taught the rules of the media game and the tools of the media game so they can go and play the media game themselves. So that keeps us off the streets and out of mischief most of the time.
Oh, that sounds wildly fascinating.
Yeah, it's big fun. It's big fun.
Before we dive into your experience with Gestalt therapy, what does a day in the life of Kate look like?
Well, usually the Wonder Dog is pretty keen for a walk. I have a Dalmatian that is
Oh,
part
beautiful.
Velcro. I think the breed is Dalmatian Velcro because he's very attached to me. So he normally is keen for a walk along the beach. We live about 2 minutes from the beach. So we go to the beach most mornings. Sometimes it's a morning yoga class as well. And then into the office. I've always had a home office. I had a home office before it became trendy to have a home office. I've had a home office for 23 years. And it's really about each masterclass is an application only process. So it usually takes about 3 months to assess each applicant and get things ordered for the masterclass. I always feel, well, firstly, it's really, we have journalists come on day 2 and every single business in the room pitches to every single journalist in the room. So it's really important that we serve up to the journalists a caliber of business owner that is worthy of their time. So it's an application process. And also, if people aren't ready, I need to be a really good custodian of their brand and their journey. And we decline between 20 and 30% of people who apply. So it's really important that I'm able to sleep with me at night. And so that assessment process takes about 3 months before every masterclass. So my day's filled with speaking with entrepreneurs all day, every day, peeking beneath the hood of their businesses and working out what they're doing and where the media angles lie for them. So that's a pretty fun way to fill my day.
It sounds very fun. And I can hear that you have this beautiful belief system of working with integrity and like ethically aligned with your clients and your proteges, I guess, allowing them to grow and expand to be the best version of themselves, and you being such an integral part of that. That's
Yeah, it's pretty rewarding. No one claps louder when my little chicks get media coverage than me. And the
yeah.
integrity piece is a really interesting one, Chelle, because we screen every applicant. And as I said, I decline people. I once declined a guy for a variety of reasons that I won't go into. And then he offered to pay double
Oh wow.
to
Yeah.
come. I think you get a sense of the sort of person we're talking about when we talk about someone who would do that. And when I still declined him, he was really put out. I think I'm the first person ever in his life to say no to him. He's like, no one in their right mind says no to double the money. And I'm like, it's not about being in my right mind, my darling. It's about being in my right integrity. And
Mm,
it's not for sale. It's just not for sale. Because I think we all need to be able to look ourselves in the mirror at night. The only person to whom we're really ultimately accountable is ourselves.
absolutely.
And if we can look in the mirror at the end of each night and put our head on the pillow and feel like we've made a difference today, I took my 2 boys to Whistler for a month for my 50th some years ago, and for my birthday, my youngest saw this plaque in Vancouver, and I've got it above me, and it says, "What good shall I do this day?" And it sits above my screen. And I think for all of us, if we can pop our head on the pillow at night thinking, I did a bit of good today, whatever that might look like, I think that's been a good day.
Absolutely. I had a phone call from a friend that I haven't spoken to in quite a while. She's going like, "Oh, the energy's been really big and intense, and like, how are you doing?" I went, "Today's a really good day."
Yeah,
That's all that matters. And that really takes us into Gestalt therapy, that the the primary practice is being in the here and now, being really present with how the body is showing up, how the external influences of the now are impacting us. We can bring the past into the now and work with that and heal those layers. But it's about showing up and how we can be the best version of ourselves today.
absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So that leads me to I'm really curious. When did you first experience Gestalt therapy, and how did you come across Gestalt?
Yeah, really unusually, and just a teeny tiny little bit traumatic as well. I was living in Perth for 5 years, working for a PR agency over there, and I had a really awful break-in. I was in bed. I heard some noises. I thought it was my housemate coming home, and then the bedroom door sort of flung open, and I thought that's very strange. And sort of I kind of rolled over in my sleep and said, "What are you doing?" And there were two men standing at the end of my bed, shining a torch into my face, and we were being robbed. So I screamed. Thank God they ran, because it could have gone, 50 shades of not great. And so I that was really traumatic, and not immediately after, but a little while after that, someone had mentioned there's a victims of crime support network that can give financial remedy for the pain and suffering that people have happened. But the most important part of the victims of crime kind of setup is that they provide support. And so in Perth, the psychologist that I was referred to, she wasn't Gestalt, but she brought in a Gestalt therapist to work with me during that time. And it was probably the first time I was consciously aware of that mind-body connection. I was in my mid-20s, so I was just a junior burger in life, really. And as we all think in our 20s that we know most things, until we get older, we realise we don't really know much at all at that age.
Right.
But I wasn't really aware of that whole mind-body connection and how important it is, and how that which remains unaddressed emotionally will always manifest in a physical sense, whether that's cancer or a sore back or a sore shoulder or a limp or a sore tooth or whatever. There's a whole school of people out there, kind of starting with Louise Hay, that talks about the mind-body connection. So I wasn't really aware of it, but as I worked through the trauma of this fairly awful home invasion, the questions I think that the Gestalt therapist asked were rather different, and one might say a bit maybe softer and more curious than the traditional psychologists. And they were mates, and they'd worked together. They did a lot of stuff together. So I was really grateful that that the original therapist brought in the Gestalt therapist. And I think it enabled me to release a lot of that trauma from the body simply by being asked questions like, I would explain something about what had happened, and she would talk about things. Where do you feel that in your body? And they were not questions I was accustomed to being asked. So it was quite an eye-opening experience.
Wow, I can hear, even as you're relaying it now, I can see the visual impact that that experience has had on your body, and that it can still play out years later after the event. But I can also see that you're also intellectually healed from that experience, that you can observe that as that happened to me, but that doesn't define who I am. That's not who I am today. It's not something I'm carrying with me. That differentiation between, yeah, the mind and the body, which does really play such a big part in Gestalt therapy. Also, with the therapist, when you're sharing about the therapist just going softly, softly, there is a big part of the client therapist relationship in being connected and relational and mimicking our external world. That's where you get to practice being you in a really safe way. So, working with your therapist in working through slowly and at a pace that is supportive for you and safe for you through that expression of that traumatic experience, being able to come to that place of going, okay, I discovered something about myself, and I'm curious now. What did you have any like aha moments or deepening awareness of yourself that still impacts who you are today?
Um, I I think that in the sessions, I remember one particular session where I tend to use humor to deflect and or to cope, And I remember in one session she sort of said to me, "How do you feel?" And at the time there was this ad for peanut butter where I don't know if you remember it, but it was a very long time ago, where the peanut butter was trying to escape the jar,
Oh,
and someone put the lid on it, and the peanut butter kind of
yeah.
back into the jar. And we were talking about something, and I was feeling quite emotional, and she said to me, "How are you feeling?" And I said, "I feel like my emotions are the peanut butter trying to escape out of the jar, and my conscious mind wants to keep putting a lid on that." And I think that the ability to self-reflect and be aware of what's happening to the body in any moment is probably the biggest thing I took away from the Gestalt time, I think. And I've used that with my boys from when they were really little. How does that feel in your body, when they were little and weren't able to articulate as well as they can now as grown adults, young men. But even recently, my 21-year-old moved out to go to uni. We live down on the coast, about an hour and a half out of Melbourne, and he's up in Melbourne at uni doing global politics and international relations, and did the commute last year, which was pretty tiresome. So he wanted to move out this year, and I went and looked at some houses with him, but I wasn't able to look at the second tranche, if you like, of houses. And he was explaining one house to me, and I said, "How did it feel in your body? Like, tell me how your body felt when you were in that house." And he said, "Oh, it felt like I was on edge, felt like I was on eggshells. It felt like, and he started articulating what his body was feeling when he was in the house. And then he told me about the second house, which is subsequently where he decided to live. And I'm like, "Tell me about how your body felt there." And he's like, "Well, it was so great, Mum, because I'd just come from this house where I felt this, this, and this. And then I went to that house and I could feel my body breathing. I could feel it relaxing. I could feel my nervous system deregulating." And I'm like, "Go you, babe. Sounds like the perfect house for you." And so that "where do you feel this in your body" question is such a powerful question, because it gets people out of their head. They're rationalizing, or they're justifying, or they're blaming, or they're whatever's going on in the conscious mind, whatever's going on in their head. That "how does your body feel about that?" or "where do you feel it in your body?" Just such powerful questions. And I don't think I realized the power of what I was learning at the time I was learning it. But I've hung on to it 30 years later, so it's clearly made an impact.
And the body doesn't lie.
Yeah. The body does not lie.
The mind is, it's the ego's job to constantly be alerting us to like safety and stresses and attack and always assessing, but it can trick us. It can really, like even on our phones are stressors as well, like micro stressors, and they trick the brain into thinking we're unsafe because we're going into that heightened state of stress just from like reading a news article on the phone that's not playing out in real time with us. So the mind is incredibly powerful, but if we drop into our body, that's where the truth is. That's where we really know what's going on for us. If our body's feeling stressed, it will let us know. Tune in next week when my conversation with Kate Engler continues. We'll be chatting about the mind-body connection through therapy, and I can't wait for you to join us and see how that all played out. She was such a delight to speak with, and I felt very blessed having Kate guest on my pod. Thank you for showing up for yourself by listening to Soul Therapy with Chelle. Feel welcome to subscribe to my podcast, share the pod with your friends, family, colleagues and neighbours. And please, if you are willing, I would absolutely love a 5-star review to give my little pod a boost in the algorithms. For further detail on how to work with me, please visit my website, www.chellegriffin.com or find me on the socials. I hope you'll join me on my next episode. Till then, go gently and intentionally. With care, Chelle.